Hey everyone, it's Shruthi, and I'm so excited to have Jesús Florido in the Shar music studio today. Born in Venezuela, he's a multifaceted violinist, composer, and educator who effortlessly blends the classical music tradition with jazz, rock, Afro-Cuban, and fiddle music. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So I just want to start out by asking, what led you to finding your path in classical music and also in fiddle playing and this kind of crossover genre that you've been in?
I love talking about this because I have to blame it all, or give credit to my father. My father was very instrumental in exposing me to a lot of music as a child. The story goes that when I was 11 years old, I won my first competition, a small competition, nothing major, but it was a violin competition nevertheless. Mm-hmm. My dad was really, really happy and proud. And I came home with my little medal and he said, this is great. You're really good at classical music. Let's go play some folk music because you need to learn that to be a complete musician. Mm-hmm. So through my childhood, he kept feeding me records. When I turned 15, he bought me part of my gifts for my birthday was a wrapped LP, a vinyl that was kind of blue. And he said, he gave it to me and he says, this record is going to change your life. It changed my life to this day. I'm obsessed with Miles Davis.
In that vein, I know that you were very involved in the Sistema Program and you were a founding member. How do you think that shaped you throughout your career, and how does that impact your education and the way that you impact young people today?
Well, I mean, it was one of those. Funny, I was talking about it last night. It was a situation of being in the right place at the right time, because I have studied piano when I was about 6 or 7. I had a terrible piano teacher, and I was complaining to my mother that I didn't like him. He would hit my fingers with a pencil. I mean, barbaric, old school, as they call it. And then my mom's best friend told her that, don't worry, let's put him in this new orchestra program that is just starting next week. Mm-hmm. So they just started. I didn't ask. I didn't say I want to do this. They just signed me up. Mm-hmm. And then we had a big ceremony with Dr. Abreu, the founder of Sistema, came to give us our instruments. Dr. Abreu was the master of the media. I mean, even then, it was all about, cameras and things. And he did a big event at City Hall in my hometown of Barquisimeto. And then we thought they were going to pass the instruments out, so we're all excited. We're getting new instruments. And then we saw a lot of police and stuff, and go, oh my God, the mayor is gonna be there. And oh my God, the mayor. In those days, we only had 3 TV stations, and so you didn't know how these people look like, And somebody, no, it's the governor, and go, oh my God, the governor. Well, he showed up with the president.
Wow.
So they did a whole ceremony where the president gave me my medal that I still carry in my case. And then Dr. Abreu handed me my little half-size violin. Dr. Abreu had this thing of, when he was talking to you, he was talking to you. He was really good about that. And then he leaned towards me because I was little. I remember looking up. And then he leaned and like kind of almost whispered in my ear. And he says, Jesus, with this violin, you're going to change the world.
Wow.
And I was like, I mean, what can you say? I drank the juice. I bought it, and that's what I've been ever since.
Yeah.
I mean, he taught us service. So he was very good about that, service to others. I came from a well-off family. I didn't have money problems or anything, but he encouraged us to help others. So they will send, when I had my first string quartet, we were the youngest string quartet in the country. The orchestra will send us to every little town to play, in the middle of the square, because if the weather was nice, we'll play outside. And we play Mozart quartets, people that have never seen a violin before. So that was from like day one. Teaching, touring, I mean, to me, they're one in itself,
Yes.
Every concert I play, I visit schools. I try to do as much reach out as I can. And what I tell my friends and my wife all the time is that when I retire from performing, I'm going to go teach full time somewhere. That's my dream, to go teach full time, some school somewhere, hopefully with nice weather.
Maybe even in LA. No, that's really beautiful. And I think what you were saying, that teaching and touring are both different sides of the same coin, right? You can't do one without the other, and each influences the other as well. So I guess my next question is, you've had such a multifaceted career of touring, teaching, composing. What is that like, sort of breaking down the tradition that we put classical music in this box? And what is that like, sort of breaking out of the box, but also having all of your skills so rooted in the tradition and the skills and the techniques and all of those sorts of things? What is that like, balancing the two?
Well, we can't deny 300 years of tradition.
Right.
So I'm not denying that at all. One of my most popular requests when I teach master classes is to teach chopping, chops.
Yes.
It's one of the most popular requests I get these days.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can't hold the bow properly, you can't chop. So
correct.
That's my carrot. How I dangle it in front of you. So you learn to balance your hand and the function of, I'm very technical. I'm a very technical violinist, and I can explain to you everything I'm doing. So I can break it down, so a child can understand it.
Yes.
But once you have the control of your instrument, once you, as I say, to know the fingerboard.
Yes.
Once you know the fingerboard, you can do it with your eyes closed. You close your eyes and you can play. Then that's when you bring your ears in.
Right.
So, and something if I can say, criticize at a certain point of classical music is that classical music teaches you eye-finger coordination. We bypass the ears. Nobody's deaf. Nobody plays out of tune on purpose, or nobody plays out of tune and does not hear it. Because I remember I used to have a problem in this particular piece, and I had a terrible teacher at the time, and I kept saying, I will play the thing. He says, "You're out of tune." And I go, "Yeah, I know I'm out of tune. I'm not." I couldn't say that, obviously, but he didn't tell me how to solve it. He just told me you're out of tune. And I go like, "Well, tell me something I don't know."
Right.
So that's what my philosophy of teaching is, that I became the teacher I always wanted to have. I can break down anything I do to you and explain it and tell you exactly where it comes from, because it was a necessity that I had to do for myself. Another problem we have with classical music, that because there's so many amazing recordings, we hold ourselves to that high standard of perfection, and we forget the music. Yes, I love high fits like anybody else, but only high fits could play like high fits. So don't measure me by that stick.
Exactly.
If you measure me by, did you have a good time at the show? Did you enjoy it? When you start talking about technique, what technique does to you is that it gives you the key, but it's up to you to open the door or not.
Absolutely.
Sometimes if I'm in the master class and somebody plays something really fast, really perfect, and I go and I stop them and I go, "Okay, where's the music there?" And this girl, I remember, was horrified because she had never thought about it. And I said, speed doesn't impress me. Speed means that you practice a lot. Yes, okay, good for you. Now, what is the music? Because honestly, what it comes down to, what we do is entertainment. And I remember the first teacher when I was studying with Joseph Gingle at Bloomington in Indiana. He told me one day, "You're a great entertainer." But in classical music, that is faux pas. You are not an entertainer. Right. No, yes, we are. That's what we do. People pay a ticket to go see a show and have a good time. So we need to offer that. When does it come that they came to expect perfection? Nowhere, in no book. Even Beethoven said it, that he'd rather you miss 3 notes and play with passion than the alternative. So it's like, in my case, one thing led to the next. I did not plan it this way. If you would have told me 20 years ago, 30 years ago, sorry, I'm old, 30 years ago that I was going to be in this position today, I would have called a liar, because I thought I was just going to play in an orchestra and that was it. But one thing led to another, and I think that I give credit to me having my ears and my mind open and to follow the path of good music.
Yeah, I think sometimes classical musicians get so boxed in and they say, well, I can only listen to classical music and all these things, but listen to everything. Listen to world music, listen to singers, listen to drummers. I think that's what gives us, ammunition and a voice and inspiration so that we can make new ideas,
Yeah. Well, Duke Ellington said it better than anybody. He said there's 2 types of music, good music and bad music. That's what it comes down, because there's horrible classical music out there. There's horrible performances of classical music. And it's when people say, "Oh, classical music is so boring." My answer is like, no, there's boring performances of classical music. But I did the Mozart cycle, the sonatas for piano and violin twice. And most of the time people came over and said, "I didn't know that Mozart could be this fun."
Talking about all of this good music that we've been talking about, you've performed sort of acoustic, classical, electric, amplified, and these are all genres of good music. But what are the challenges of working with the different mediums, like acoustic versus electric, and how do you How do you kind of navigate, and what's most exciting about one or the other?
Well, for me, it was a huge learning curve, and I did it all basically on my own.
Sure.
And again, it was thanks to my father. My father would take me maybe once a month. We'll go to the record store, and he would let me loose. He was friends with the owner, and he said, go pick some records. And he will let me pick whatever I wanted. And I will go all the way, And I'm going through the records. I was maybe 12, 13 years old. And I found a guy playing a purple violin with like rock lights and stuff. And I go like, mind blown. Just with the cover. Just with the cover. And it was Jean-Luc Ponty, Aurora, the record Aurora. So that was 13, 14, something like that. And I said, I have to buy this. So anyway, so when I discovered that, I remember it was the first time I came to New York in 1981. And I went to a music store and I said, I want a violin like the one that Jean-Luc Ponty uses. And the guy at the store says, Jean-Luc who? So we have to ask around, and somebody at the store knew who Jean-Luc Ponty was. And then he said, oh yeah, I know which violin, but we don't have those. I said, can you order it for me? And they did. So I bought my first electroacoustic Marcus Berry violin, a blue one. And then I went home and I asked my friend who was a guitar player, how do I do this? Because I had a plug. So we plugged it into an amp and it was awful. The sound was awful. Oh my God. It was terrible. So, but I said, but Jean-Luc Ponty sounds great. I have to do something. So I figured out that the amplification make the sound really harsh. And if I play this pasty kind of a connected sound, it didn't work in electric. So I realized, I have to change my bow. The way I attack the string has to be different. If I want it louder, I just turn the knob, Then if you put a volume pedal, you just turn the volume pedal up and down. Then my friend said, no, try this. And he plugged in a wah pedal. And then my life was never the same. Once I discovered wah, I mean, like again, I was maybe 14, 15 years old. And that's when I started playing with bands. And it was just a discovery process. I will just figured it out. A lot of questions to the point that now I have it mastered. I can explain to you, if we're having a lesson, what to do with your hand and your bow and your arm and everything to change from one to the next. Because it's a big change. And thanks to one of my teachers in college, Dr. Davis Brooks, who switched beautifully from violin to viola. And he's a tall guy. He's 6'3", 6'4", something like that. He will be playing in the same concert violin, to put it down and grab a viola and sound fantastic. And I asked him, Dr. Brooks, how do you do that? And he looked at me and said, easy. They're two different instruments. See, I'm not trying to approach the viola like a violin or the violin like a viola. Exactly. I mean, that moment, again, life-changing moment for me. I told him that the other day. He doesn't remember. I thought he was going to say, oh, no. But it was a life-changing moment for me because when people ask me about electric violin, because I am an electric violin advocate, nothing better for your intonation than to practice Kreutzer number 2 with an electric violin and full distortion.
Interesting.
Intonation, let me tell you, it's unforgiving with distortion. If it's out of tune, a hair, oh, my deaf grandmother can hear it. That's one of my teachers. It's so ugly.
Right.
So what happens, because some classical players look at electric players like, oh, that is beneath me. And I go, wow, you try. I want to see you try. Because then this is what I say to all the classes that I do when I'm teaching electric strings, is that, yes, electric violins amplify your sound. They also amplify your problems. So if you play out of tune, you're going to play 3 times
more out of
louder
tune.
Out of tune.
Yes.
Because those instruments have a whole series of colors and things that an acoustic violin doesn't have. So it's a different tool. Would I change my concert violin for that? No, that's not the point.
But you can add it to the toolbox. Right. So talking on that subject of being not the right color for the industry, or being a Latino person, or, just not fitting the mold that other people expect out of classical music, what has been your experience navigating those stereotypes or breaking those stereotypes and educating other people that, no, I do belong here?
It was really interesting because I never felt discriminated until I moved to the US. You know, it was the first time that somebody pointed out that I looked different. I had never, and I've traveled the world already. When I came to the US, I was 19 years old. I already had a career. So all of a sudden, they started questioning me. But you haven't heard me play. And my favorite joke, sorry, my English is not so good. Only my fourth language. So my joke is always that, the language thing. And then it became more of a, I don't look the part. I don't look like, and at the time, I used to have hair when I was young. And I had long curly hair and I had all the rings. I was like almost like a rock player and earrings and things. The most common thing comment I get after concerts is, you don't look like a violinist. And people say it, they don't know
They
how
don't
much
mean
it hurts.
it. Exactly.
They don't mean it, but it still hurts. You know, what do you mean by that? That's what I want to know. I mean, did you like the show? Is that what you're saying? You like the show despite the way I look. What I discovered is that if people had any doubts, once I played, they couldn't say anything. And I have to be like any minority, I have to be 3 times as good as anybody to achieve the same. You know, that's the story of my life. I took it as that's the way it is. You know, it shouldn't be. Every time I have time to speak about it, I do. And we've made some improvements. Things, for instance, has been an amazing, you know, I love what Aaron and Ava have done with Sphinx through the years. I wish I was closer to work more with them. And I've been busy too. But at some point, we'll always tend to connect and to support each other. You know, one of my pieces was used for the competition, and it was very yes.
How wonderful!
It was used for the solo competition for violin, and that was, oh my God, I was so honored and happy and you know everything, because when Sphinx started, I was too old to compete.
That's right.
So I played in the orchestra once, but yeah, I mean, it's always been that, and one of the things that I'm doing now at this level that I am now with more presence and is like even Larson, you know, to put me on a full page ad on String Magazine. For them was a very daring thing to do. And now that I know them, that's why I love that company so much. They did not care. They just love the way I play. They love what I do. It's a very, very intimate relationship, you know. But they're the only company out of the companies that, and Stradivarius and Glasser have both done it as well. But I want to see and it's not for vanity. Please,
no, it's about representation, right? It's about seeing
representation.
Yeah, it's about seeing other people that look like you and having other people be able to see, hey, that's me. And when I grow up, I can be on Strings Magazine
I can be like him because I didn't have anybody.
That's right.
I want to see more people that look like me represented, not because of my color, because I'm good at what I do.
Right, and I think that's the common theme, right? I love that Larson put you on the magazine and Glasser is supporting you because at the root, you're a good musician. We just want good music. We don't care about the color of the skin, the form that it comes in. We just like good music and good musicians. So anybody who's willing to support that, I think that's all that you need to do, right? Especially in this industry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right after college, I made finals in 3 orchestras that I'm not going to mention. And I came from Venezuela with the pedigree, with so many concerts already, so many tours. And I'm auditioning for what I call a AAA orchestra. It's not New York or I make the finals and they choose the other player that has nothing on me. Like nothing. That happens 3 times in a row when I said, okay, I'm done. And I officially retired from orchestral playing in 1986. Was my last to do that, you know. And it was hard at the beginning because that was the dream.
Of course.
But I didn't know that this dream was so much bigger, you know, because what I'm doing now transcends. My wildest dream was that. And I'm way past. I have a show coming up that I created. I have a book coming out next year. I have all these things that I'm writing a book about my life. What? Are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know, but there it is, you know, and my experiences, and I want to share that with the next generation. I look forward to the day that we don't need a Hispanic Heritage Month, when we're just us, you know. We don't need a Black Heritage Month or, you know, whatever it is. It's like, can we just agree that we're all in the same boat? Because as Latino as I am, my parents are Italian. I was born and raised in Latino culture. Yes, I am Latino. I'm not saying I'm not, but I am very Latino actually. But I was born from Italian, from European
immigrants that were
But it's my culture. You know, I grew up. I embrace it. I love it. I criticize it. I do the same things like we all do. It's about the good music. It's about doing good things for others. If we realize that in this world we're all together, why can't we just be one?
what new projects do you have coming up? What's in the pipeline? What do we have to look forward to from you?
Let me start with Venezuelan music, because in all my career, I've done hundreds of albums, hundreds of movies, and I have never, ever before recorded Venezuelan music. 10 years ago, I had a health scare,
Sure.
you know, and it was very traumatic. I was at the brink of death, just to say it lightly, and I made it through. I'm still here. One thing that made me realize is that if I had died at that moment, I wouldn't have done all these other things that I wanted to do. And one of the things that I've always wanted to do is to record Venezuelan music. Remember that story when I told you that my dad said that I should learn Venezuelan? He took me when I was about 12 or so to a fiddle teacher that played Venezuelan fiddle music. And his name was Pablo Canela. And he played like a fiddle player with a fiddle down here, didn't know how to read or write very well. Intonation was sometimes on, sometimes off, but he was amazing. And he kept, when I took lessons from him, you know, he kept saying, what is your heart? What is a heart? He kept questioning my heart. You're playing the notes. Don't play the notes. Play me the music. You know, he was a fiddle. I mean, non-trained. He never took a lesson in his life. So I made an album as an homage to him. And the album is called Querido Pablo. And it has about 7 of his tunes and 3 other Venezuelan songs, very common, for violin, cuatro, maracas, Venezuelan maracas, you know, and all homeboys. And it should come out hopefully next April or May.
Wow!
Before we have to release before May 31st.
Okay.
So it qualifies
before then.
before April, yeah. I have to. I'm not completely done with it, and but it's coming. It's already
awesome.
Already in the pipeline. And then in March of 16, at the Kennedy Center, I'm premiering 2 violin concertos. Not 1, but 2. But wait, there's not 1. There's 2. I'm doing the American premiere of the Claudio Montero Violin Concerto.
Okay.
And I'm premiering a brand new piece written for me by the Grammy-nominated composer Juan Arboleda, called Poema en Cuatro Tiempos, Poem in 4 Times, that was written by his grandmother, who was a very well-known poet, Colombian poet, to her husband when he passed. So it's a little 4-piece nugget.
Sweet,
you know,
yeah.
But sweet, it's a like 10-minute piece, you know, divided in 4 short poems. So we're going to read the poems and play the music. And
beautiful.
With the Paragon Philharmonia and Miriam Burns conducting in March 16th. So that's a big deal for me. Claudia Montero sadly passed away from breast cancer. She was very young, you know, untimely death. But I have promised her I was going to play the piece. And when she passed, I was in the middle of being sick as well. So we kind of lost touch. And when I came out of it, I knew I was going to play again. I reached out and no answer. It happens that she happened to die and I didn't know. I connected with her sister in Argentina and she got me the score. And it's a beautiful piece. I'm obsessed with it.
Fantastic.
So, and I'm going to play with a few more orchestras 2 or 3 more times, and then I will record the album. So those 2 pieces. And I'm commissioning a 3rd piece for the album. So that will come out in 25 or 26, you know. Yeah, these things take time.
Yeah, of course.
But more importantly, I think I can make sort of a official kind of a announcement. One of the things that I've done most in my life is I play with many famous people in shows and things, you know. It makes the resume look good. But I always wanted to do my own.
Yes.
You know. If I do a show, you know, I had a vivid idea, and I went to the Hollywood Bowl in 2006, and I showed this concert called Vivaldi con Salsa, where they had a side-by-side orchestra playing the 4 seasons.
Sure.
And I thought it was great, but I thought, very arrogant of me, but I thought, really, I really think I can do better than that. Anyway, so it's a scary thing to do. When I was sick that I couldn't play, I couldn't go anywhere. My wife said one day, I was worried about the future, and she said, why don't you do that Vivaldi show that you said that you could do better than anybody? Like taunting me. So, and after much discussion, I realized she was right, as she always is. And Sonoro Latino was born. Sonoro Latino is kind of me, Italian Latino. Sonoro in Italian means full of sound. And Sonoro Latino is a symphonic show where we do Latin versions of classical music, but it's almost like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Stadium show. Gonna be more than the 4 seasons. The first show is the 4 seasons, but it's gonna blow your mind.
That's gonna be very
people involved.
cool.
The people involved are amazing. I can tell you that we have papers officially. The project is financed and is coming out in 25.
Okay.
We should start production before the end of the year.
Fantastic.
But more importantly, even though it's a show and it's fantastic, is the educational component of the show. It's going to be remarkable. I've started a foundation that is going to do an incredible amount of work with local schools. We're going to have kids from the local schools join the show, train new players to be in the show so they can replace me. I mean, I can't do 100 concerts a year anymore. I have amazing violinists who are going to be soloists, amazing. Wonderful. I mean, the group is, and then my favorite part is that we're doing basically an audio version of the show. So the record with the immersive sound and all this stuff, the live show. But the big recording, I can officially announce that it will be done with the London Symphony at Abbey Road in the summer next year. It's a done deal. Wow. I have a letter from the London Symphony approving the project, which is right.
You need to frame it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then we have unconfirmed major artist who's going to sing, because there's 4 songs with the 4 seasons. That's going to blow everybody's away. I mean, I cannot announce them because they already said yes, but we don't know if it can fit the schedule. As you see with very famous people, that tends to be the problem. You can say, yes, I would love to do it. And then, I cannot do it that day.
Exactly.
I will make no announcement, but they're like superstar.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's really fantastic.
It took me 10 years to put it together. And then I have a book, kind of a little bit of my story of my life, but it's almost like a motivational book. And appropriately it's called The Fifth Season, because it's my life after coming back to life. Sure. And the 4 seasons kind of saved me in a way. Because this project gave me the challenge. I couldn't play for 6 years, and to come back to play at this level is really hard, and at my age to make a comeback is even harder, and being a Latino male is even harder. Yet I'm here. I have quite a bit of things coming out.
That's fantastic. That's so exciting, and thank you for being here with us and sharing your story and all the fun things that are in the pipeline, and also so many nuggets of little wisdom that we can take with us. We really, really appreciate having you here.
No, my pleasure. That's why I love doing things like this, because I want every little boy, every little girl that looks like me to say, like, oh, he did it. Look, Mom, he did it. I'm not that crazy. Representation is important, but thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate. Shar is my old company. I've been buying stuff there from the beginning.
Me too. No, but we've been so lucky to have you here, and thank you for agreeing to talk with us and share your wisdom.
My pleasure. Anytime.